Welcome back to the Premier League preview show. We're here, we're back again, and let's get ready to talk some more Premier League football and get your predictions in the chat. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to the Premier League preview show. Another show. I'm Tereak Talks. We're back, we're rolling, we're getting into the groove of things, and I am here with my brother-in-law. What am I saying that? My brother, yeah, and my wonderful co-host, Edmund. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks to you.
Good, yeah. Football's coming in thick and fast at the moment. This is the time of the year that we love, though. Of course, it's tradition here in the UK for the Premier League to be playing on Boxing Day, but even the European leagues have had to return soon because of the World Cup, of course. So yeah, it's been interesting. But before we talk about any Premier League football, of course, the news that's broken probably about half an hour ago, just over that, is the sad news of the loss of Pele, the legend, the man himself, the icon. One of the first GOATs of the game has sadly passed away at the age of 82. And here at Tereak Talks, myself and Edmin, and I'm sure a lot of you guys in the chat as well, will send our condolences, as is a person, an icon in football who has transcended many generations. When we talk about the likes of Messi being the greatest of all time, he was the first one, and he's the one that comes to mind first. And, as someone who is black as well, someone in a period of time where I can't even imagine what it was like for black people across the world, and to have an icon and someone who is elite and the greatest and the best in their sport, and in a time where it's not like how it is now, as we have much access around the world and in different countries. He really is an icon and a legend and a role model to many. And bro, what's your thoughts and talking? Because I know me and you spoke plenty of times about Pele when we're talking about the greatest of all time, and your dad, it's always Pele for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a generational thing, but when you think about the fact that basically he only had every 4 years to turn up and impress people and for the world to see it, and it turns out, he's won the World Cup, 3 times? Was it 3 times, I think?
Yep.
Or twice. Part of the 1970 Brazil side that a lot of people say is the best international side that's ever lived, scoring one of the best goals that you'll ever see, that Carlos Alberto goal in the final. And I think there was a TikTok doing the rounds, not that I'm on it, but it was sent to me, I think by Wilf, which massively shows that anything that you think is modern and new, chops, flip flaps, all the other stuff.
Even the Cruyff turn.
The Cruyff turn, anything from sort of his era onwards, and you think, oh, well, maybe he wouldn't have been able to do it, cut it in this day and age. He was doing it all and more on pitches where the ball was bouncing left, right and centre, and doing it with centre-backs and full-backs that wouldn't think twice about going through the back of you as well. And famously, in 1966, he was kicked out of the World Cup, which obviously allowed England to progress to the final without playing that incredible Brazil team. And yeah, what the first international superstar you could probably say about Pele as well. Back then, the World Cup was the only time you would have seen him, and he made a name for himself. Every 4 years he'd turn up and he'd turn it on. So what a player! He seems like a very nice guy as well from what you read, what you see. So yeah, I think a lot of people saying the original GOAT, and I would probably go along with that. And like I said, I think people of my dad's generation and upwards, he would probably be the only one in consideration.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's an important thing you've just raised there about him as a person. When you see him on TV, you always see that wonderful smile that he always used to share. And even him meeting the likes of, Jack Wilshere, I remember seeing that at the time. And Jack Wilshere, when I was a kid, he was the footballer that I loved at Arsenal. And he was just always spent so much time with non-footballers as well, giving them hugs and so much. He seemed like a very warming character. So yeah, and condolences. And you can see, if you have seen on social media, his daughter's made a post and those things. And yeah, true icon and a great man by the looks of things as well. So yeah, rest in peace, Pele. And let's see what you guys want to say, and send your love out to Pele here. We've got plenty of you in the chat. Big up each and every one of you in the place, as well as Ed brought up some comments from Paxton as well. G Staffy in the building. Moss saying Pele, the legend, king of all kings, greatest ambassador ever and all time forever. Exactly. Big up yourself, Patrick, in here as well. R.I.P. Pele. In Moss saying, if you haven't watched Pele's acting abilities, Victory told you all youngins before to watch the legends of the game in a movie with Sylvester Stallone in the early 80s as well. Wilf saying, Pele, R.I.P. my first hero, the GOAT. My heart hurts. Yeah, and this is it, man. Like, the memories and the things that we see, and as fans, whether it is Ronaldo, whether it is Messi, whoever your GOAT is, whether it is R9, for a lot of people in that generation, those things, those memories will stick with you forever, as we talk about football a lot. And these are the ones that make you and make you want to go out in the park and try and score the goals that the likes of Pele scored, and the likes that these guys exuberated their character and their tremendous talent on the pitch. So yeah, we have to take a special moment here to send our condolences and our love for Pele right here. But people, we're going to get started now, and we're going to get into the Premier League chat. So yes, big up each and every one of you that is locked in here as well. Let me just give a big shout outs to people that I haven't brought up already, because we've got Errol in here, we've got Shay in the place, we've got Josh in the place as well. Hope you're all keeping good, people. We've got Brush in here as well. Who else? Hope you're keeping good. Hope you had a great Christmas as well too, my friend. Hope you all have had a great Christmas and a great holidays, whether you celebrate it or not. Big up yourself, Luke, as well. Hope you're keeping well. And Mr. 200 in the place as well, saying good evening, Ed. Good evening, Tereak and Ed, as it is a sad day for football indeed. But the Premier League preview show, let's get started. And do you know what I want to kind of do before we get talking about the preview? Because we kind of did do a review show on the channel previously. I just want to talk about some of the results that we saw with the first games being back after the World Cup. And I think it'd be a great moment to kind of talk about some individual teams and their performances, and then we'll get right into the preview right here. So let me just get my screen shared with you all. Just give me one moment, and yes, here it is. It should be up and ready for you. So yeah, just having a look through some of the fixtures here. Of course, the first game of the weekend, the bank holiday weekend, was Brentford 2, Spurs 2. Then we had the 3:00 kickoffs with Crystal Palace losing 3-0 to Fulham, being down to 9 men. We had Ed's team, Wolves, who would definitely like to hear on your thoughts on this game in particular, winning away from home with a 90th minute last-minute winner from 8 Newry. Newcastle continuing their strong form and impressive 3-0 away win at Leicester City. Southampton struggling again, but Brighton looking impressive by beating them by 1. Thanks to James Ward-Prowse, Ed's nemesis right there. Aston Villa. It was an interesting game, this. Losing 3-1 to Liverpool, who looked very strong in attack, had some moments of wonderful skill, and Stefan Bjecic with the goal there with his first goal, the young man, but very shaky at the back, and we'll talk about that. I'd like to hear Ed's thoughts and yours in the chat as well. Then the evening kickoff, which we all watched, of course, the whole world was watching. Arsenal winning by 3-1 after being a goal down at halftime due to a penalty. But yeah, excellent game right there. Me and Will spoke about that on the Arsenal show, so I do recommend you guys go and check that one out right there. And then on the Tuesday, so this was like the equivalent to the Sunday games, which was Chelsea winning by 2-0. Reece James injured again. Man United winning by 3-0 against Nottingham Forest after a horror show from Hennessy. And if you did watch the preview show, a certain Ed also told you that Hennessy being in goal isn't going to be good for Forest. Yep. And Manchester City looking as impressive as ever, winning by 3-1. Whilst Pep Guardiola says that Haaland's not at his top best, he's still going and scoring 2 goals and getting to 20 goals in the Premier League. But bro, let's talk about your team first. Everton losing by 2-1 to the mighty Wolves. What was your thoughts on that, my bro?
Oh, first and foremost, what an awful game of football it was. I think it was rightfully last on Match of the Day. It was not one for the purists. It was 2 teams that were dogging it out at the bottom of the league, and I think that's where they will be for the majority of the season. I think based on what we saw from a Wolves perspective, what I liked about it was that our bench looked a lot stronger than Everton's, and I think that's the first time I could say that about this Wolves team. The signings that we are being apparently linked with and the ones we have made show that, Wolves and Fosun, the group that own Wolves, know that they've got to put some money back into the team after basically stripping it of its parts over the last sort of 18 months or so. And it's huge, isn't it? We all watch football, all of you guys that are watching. A 1-1 away from home in the Premier League, you'd probably take it. And then when it's a 2-1, it papers over a lot of cracks. We didn't look great but at the back. There's clearly some issues with Collins and Kilman from the start of the season when they looked like they were hitting the ground running. They're a little bit static now and a little bit slow and a little bit behind the pace. But that 95th minute winner from the left wing back / left winger that he seems to be turning into now, kind of, like I say, papers over those cracks. And all of a sudden it's a big 3 points, drags you off the bottom of the league and only leaves you 1 point really away from getting out of that danger zone. So everyone's watched a football game where your team has scored in the last few minutes and you forget all about the bad stuff. But the big thing for me, I think, in that game was how poor Everton were. I felt like, and how they didn't want to take the ball to Wolves, despite the fact that they were at home. 5 losses on the bounce either side now of the World Cup. They look in trouble at the moment, and Frank Lampard's got to galvanise them. And the crowd, again, the crowd were very much against. Not many people would have chosen this on Amazon Prime unless you were an Everton or Wolves fan to watch at 3:00 on Boxing Day. So you might not have heard and seen sort of the toxic energy that was coming out of Goodison. So there's a lot of work to do for both teams, but it's strange that it feels like Wolves, despite the fact that we're below them in the table and started the the Christmas Day period bottom of the league, it's strange that I feel like we have a little bit more momentum than some of the teams in and around us right now. But I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that we have got this new manager that's managed at a high level, who's come in and hit the ground running. And hopefully a couple more signings and we can steady the ship. I'm bizarrely very confident, considering we were bottom at Christmas.
There you go, right there. And that's what a difference a manager and someone as a character of Julian Lopetegui and the reputation that he also carries as well can make into Wolves. And a new signing he's the cherry on top of that. And hopefully, more to come for Wolves, as they do need, striker. That was the priority number 1 needed for Wolves. I'm sure anyone could tell you that. Who's watched Wolves this season, they've been pretty at times getting the ball into the final third, but just not having that cutting edge and that instinct that you need there. And hopefully Matheus Cunha can bring that to you guys. And then also, just solidifying at the back as a little bit as well. Felipe's been linked in that area and just getting more numbers in there. Just more numbers across the squad as well, in squad depth across midfield, I'm sure that you'd like to point out. But Bueno, once again, this is the one to watch at Wolves, guys. If you're looking for a left back, I'm telling you, Bueno, he might be on your radar very soon for the top clubs. If Wolves, especially if Wolves do go down, hopefully you don't, but I'm sure plenty of clubs will be interested in Hugo Bueno. Some other key results in here. We'll talk about the first one. Brentford 2, Spurs 2. Spurs once again, slow start, being 2-0 down, and then as soon as Harry Kane scored that wonderful header and kind of quietened down the doubters, the ones that said I expect him to have a poor second half of the season, puts it to bed and brings the little Spurs, halves the deficit, and then Højbjerg afterwards. And Harry Kane could have scored another one at least in this game. He had the chances, but Yeah, Ed, I just want to hear your thoughts on Spurs once again. Slow starters. Is this a theme we're going to continue to expect from Spurs this season?
Well, I think 16 games in, and they've been slow in pretty much all of those games. I would say that we've got a very good sample size to say so. Yeah. They're one of those teams, and there's often a team in sort of that top six that you scratch your head and wonder how they are there. And I think Spurs are that team this year, aren't they? They sort of stumble through some wins, then they look relatively impressive, but not for very long in games. You know, people might cite that Leicester game, but realistically, that was a bit of a Son freak show for about 20 minutes. Conte's teams do what Conte's teams do. And if you don't get it right at the start of the game, when you sit back and Brentford hit them, you are always behind the 8 ball. So, yeah, I still don't quite get it. I'm literally staring at the table now and wondering, from what I've watched, both the full 90 minutes and all the highlights, I don't quite get how Tottenham are fourth, but they're there. So you could argue that maybe that's Conte at least dragging out wins and the team is still getting points on the board. But then they don't look impressive to me. That the back line, I'm very doubtful of. Lloris, I think we've talked about it, I think, a few times on Tereak Talks the last sort of year or so. He's not the goalkeeper he once was, and arguably maybe a little bit overblown his reputation personally from what I've seen. And when you look at the teams below them, you know, Chelsea is still there, Liverpool is still there, Man United is still there, and they all seem to have a little bit more about them, and so do their managers, compared to where Tottenham are. So they could be the team to drop out of the top 4 for me.
Could do, definitely, if they don't sort out the issues that they do in starting these games. I think the big thing is for them, they've just got the world-class talent to put the ball in the back of the net, and the game changes in going forward, which helped them last season, of course, breaking into the top 4. And Conte, it's just he's a manager that builds upon stability, which I'm sure he'll try and want to rectify that. I think, as I can see, Will's comment here is Spurs are crap. Everyone keeps making excuses for how they're playing. Is Conte really that good? I think it's a mixture of, you know, both Conte and the Spurs players not being as good as what people rate them out to be, because he did a very good job in just making them stable, giving them some solidity so that their forward players can win games like they did last season, like on a 1-0 home win against Burnley, for example. And yeah, that proved pivotal in the end, because we didn't have the same amount of game winners against Burnley when we played them. We drew 0-0 at our place, and then Spurs were able to beat them at theirs. And that was, and those points made the difference. But as a team, they're nowhere near as cohesive. There's no balance really in there. And when a few players go missing, a couple of players, it really does start to tell. So yeah, that's the case for Spurs, and they hope, and this is why a lot of their fans are ENIC out now. Across the other results, just quickly, Crystal Palace, their squad depth left a little bit to be desired, and it kind of shown in this game, especially when they went down to 9 men. James Tompkins coming in, having a horror show. Tyreek Mitchell, by the way, is that a red card? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think both on another day could have not been red cards, but
yeah, I thought they were pretty unfortunate in that sense. But Fulham have been excellent all season.
Yeah, Fulham. I think Fulham did a very good smash and grab initially, and then as Palace sort of disintegrated, and like you talked about their squad depth, that was the biggest issue. Gay doesn't play. All of a sudden, you've got James Tompkins, who has always been a borderline Premier League player at best, then being thrust back into it at, they're on the wrong side of 30. So I think Fulham did a very good job. And Marco Silva's doing a great job there for me as well.
Yep, exactly. And then we also got Newcastle, impressive once again. Miggy Almiron scoring, Joe Linton being the man of the match in this one, and of course even Bruno Guimaraes watching the match of the day highlights. He was pulling out all the tricks and the Brazilian flair that he does possess. But yeah, Newcastle just keep marching on. Going to be tough this season, I think. Yeah, unless they don't capitulate, and due to their squad depth in certain areas, lacking a little bit. The top 4 based on performances should be there, but they're going to need a little bit of luck, I would say, throughout the duration of the season. In that sense, anything you'd like to add on that there, Ed?
No, I think we talked about it on the preview show, and am still very, very impressed with this Newcastle team, and I wasn't surprised by that at all, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly that. And Brighton, who's Arsenal's next opponents, and we'll talk about that very shortly, going away from home, 3-1. For me, it's a bit more damning on Southampton. Samuel Edozie looked like the only player to have anything to shout about. And ever since he's come into this Southampton team, I know they signed him from Manchester City, where they got the likes of Romeo Lavia too. He's been a real star. I remember seeing him in the highlights against Wolves. He looked really threatening down that left side. He's the shining light for them, which looks to be a damning season unless Nathan Jones can get something going. But yeah, are you impressed with Brighton's goal scoring of late?
I am, because that's always what we beat them with, isn't it? That's the stick that we beat Brighton with, is the fact that they're the XG merchants and they don't get the ball in the back of the net. And that was always something levelled at Potter. De Zerbi's come in and seems to have picked up the ball, not changed too much. There's a little bit more freedom, I feel, in the middle of the park for them, but they are still very light up front. And I think as you rightly said right at the start, this is more damning, I think, on Southampton and the team they are right now than whether Brighton are the real deal or not. I think Brighton are very good. They're where they are in the league on merit under both managers. But Southampton were very poor against Wolves when we were very, very poor, and they haven't got any better. And yeah, I don't feel that they're for this league very much at the moment. And I think we briefly touched on it last week that the signing of the new manager feels like it's a move for next year rather than this year as well. So Southampton didn't buy anyone of any note that's going to sort of drag them out of this, and they don't have that talismanic player like they've had in the past with Danny Ings and Lallana when he was there, when he came through the ranks. They don't have those players, and they are missing some important players as well, like Livramento, who was influential for them last year. And there's only so much James Ward-Prowse's set pieces, as brilliant as they are, can do.
Yeah, exactly. And then Aston Villa versus Liverpool. What's your thoughts on that there, bro?
Yeah, it was like you said, it's an interesting game. The Trent Alexander pass, by the way, was what a pass that was to Andy Robertson. Showing all of his skill in that moment. This could have been a very different game if Darwin Núñez had his shooting boots. I'm not too sure if he brought them from Portugal just yet, but I think, what phrase did you coin? He's a chance magnet.
Yeah.
And that is a great way of describing him, because I think it will come good. But Liverpool at the back, even still with VVD, they still don't look great. And that midfield, the holes are still there. Aston Villa had some chances. I think McGinn, a Park Sunday League type finish towards the back with that strange header he went for, that I know Moss was irate about. I think he might have messaged in our group chat about that, to be honest. And I think there was a few of those chances that Villa didn't quite get. There was an offside goal as well. And Villa in this transitional period under a very pragmatic manager shouldn't be opening up as much as they did for where Liverpool want to be. But Liverpool got their work done.
There you go, right there. And then in also the other games that we had right here, Man United against Nottingham Forest, that was the later kickoff. Man United, just keep building on, and that's what it is. It's a process for you guys at the moment. Of course, there's a lot of talk around the sale and those things there, and signings that you missed out on, and there's a little bit of negativity because of Gakpo and going to Liverpool. We'll talk about that when we get into the preview part as well. But Man United, Erik ten Hag impressing once again, just building upon that and trying to build a little bit of solidity, playing Luke Shaw in at left centre-back. I thought that was interesting there. And, because he's trying to maintain that balance, and it's so important. And when we kind of spoken to Arsenal fans before, when Gabriel was coming in, and we were and Arteta was adamant of getting a left-footed centre-back, and some people are like, but we see plenty of teams have 2 right-footers or 2 left-footers. Not plenty playing with 2 left-footers, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why can't we just do the same? Trust me, these intricacies from these very methodical managers who have a philosophy, a very clear one. If you just trust them and trust the process, it will get difficult at times, and Man United will have their sticky patches, and I still think that they will this season. And I think top 4 although is very possible, it will still be difficult given the fact what Erik ten Hag is trying to build. But yeah, impressive there. Move on, and hopefully you can keep the likes of Rashford and Martial fit if you are to get into that top 4 race indeed. Ed, what was your thoughts on Chelsea Bournemouth?
Yeah, well, from what I've seen of it, it looked like a bit of a no-brainer 2-0 result for Chelsea. Bournemouth, since making Gary O'Neill permanent, of the new manager bounce has stopped, hasn't it? And Chelsea, it felt like they did what they had to do from what I've seen. The opening goal was a very good goal for me as well. I thought Sterling playing on sort of in this free role that he's got, sort of drifting out wide, putting in one of the best crosses I think I've seen him do. I love Raheem Sterling, but I don't think I've ever seen him hit the ball more than sort of 15 to 20 yards. So whipping that ball across for a good finish that maybe the goalkeeper could have done better with, but it felt like a routine 2-0 win, it felt like to me for that one.
Exactly right then. The final game, which happened last night, and then we'll get into your comments, people, is Leeds losing at home to Manchester City. And by the way, gonna just say this, I thought there's a little bit too much made by the media and stuff talking about Jack Grealish, or this and that. Bearing in mind, I'm not the biggest Jack Grealish fan at all, but I thought he was very good in this game. And I think he has been much more impressive this season with Haaland having a main man that he can play to and play off of. He's never been a good goal scorer. The highest he ever got in a league season, I think, was 8 goals. So that's not Jack Grealish's game, and he's at the age of 26, going up to 27 now. You're not going to see much improvement in that. But I thought it was very good, and getting into those areas. And as a manager like Pep Guardiola, all he wants is his players to get in those positions to create chances, which he did, and he had a much better second half with his final pull, with his final pass as well, and his pressings also. But Man City look dangerous going forward, but defensively, there's still that awkwardness, and I think we kind of see this with Pep Guardiola sides when they have a league winning season or where they've been really impressive. That usually the following season there's a dip in somewhere in that team, and I think this season it is in the defense. And I think the main reason for that is the lack of control that they have in possession now. It's a little bit more frantic and a little bit more direct with Haaland, which you're going to play to that style. And he's already scored 20 goals, so it's not doing him any wrong in that sense. But that vulnerability, there's a bit more there and a bit more showing. And having less possession with how Manchester City play, that's how they defend. That's how, as Mikel Arteta said in the interview with Jamie Carragher, if you speak to Pep Guardiola, he'd say he's the most defensive manager in the world because he really prides himself on keeping that ball as far away from the goal as possible. And I don't think they did that. And Leeds had some opportunities, some set pieces. Wilfred Gnonto looking a real threat. And yeah, I think this really makes for an interesting title race, I would say, for Manchester City, because against the better teams, you have seen them leak goals, leak chances, and not look anywhere near as solid. But yeah, anything to add on that before we run into the comments there, Ed?
No, I think that's spot on. I think the only thing I was going to mention about the weakness in the defence, the so-called weakness in defence, I think it is literally just because Man City now, if you were to use the analogy, if they would hold the ball on for 40 seconds of the 60 seconds in a minute last season, in Haaland now they're hitting it within 20. So that just means that you're exponentially getting to get the ball coming back at you, even if it's sort of a long ball forward or a clearance. So yeah, I think that's spot on with that. I just think it's that ceding of that little bit of control that that Pep has made his name on, but he's adapting to having the best target man, complete forward that's potentially in the Premier League right now.
Exactly that right there. It's true. Good point. Wilf says, not sure Lampard is going to last the season. I think you're right. And I was listening to Matt, who's our resident Everton fan in Tereak Talks, and he was saying he doesn't expect Lampard. He says he has 3 more games to really prove himself. And Matt has been a staunch defender of Lampard. And if he's feeling that way, there's a lot of division caused at the Everton fan base right now, so I'm sure it will be difficult. It will be a difficult decision that I'll have to make very soon. Pax saying for early on, saying Wolves will provide a tricky test for us, I think. Yeah, it will be an interesting one. We'll discuss that shortly. But yeah, Ivan Toney, doing you proud as long as he can and as long as he's available. Yeah, he was looking sharp again and having a point to prove. And Ed saw something when we was watching the game, because you was around here watching it. And yeah, what was it that you noticed, Ed, with Ivan Toney?
I can't remember now. You'll have to tell me.
Remember. Okay, no. So Ed said, he said he looked a little bit like he had an edge in his game.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, there was some boots being left in and elbow being left in, and yeah, things being left on the centre backs that even for Ivan Toney was a little bit much. So yeah, he was definitely playing on the edge. You're right. I did say that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have a look in here. Conte is good, but he can't do anything for the dust collectors in Spurs. It's true. Although Spurs on paper should be doing better than they are. They're in fourth position right now. I think that's a respectable position for Spurs. I think defensively, they definitely should be doing better, I'd say. But yeah, in terms of their performances, you do expect them to perform a lot more better and have a bit more control in games as well. Totally, Ed. Spuds keep flattering to deceive. They could easily get caught by Man United and Liverpool. I definitely see Liverpool doing it as well. I think Liverpool, they're going to be finishing in the top four, in my opinion. But we'll get more into that. Of course, Conte is the Italian Big Sam. Indeed. Fulham smell blood and struck. Exactly. They have done that a lot this season when Mitrovic has been fit. And yeah, when he's not been throwing elbows at Morgan Gibbs White. Not to mention Spuds, yep, have had a fantastic window. Yeah, that's what was being said a lot. I don't think that is the case. I would like to see Big Sam manage Inter Milan. Hey, he managed England. He's got 100% win rate, hasn't he? You know, so maybe.
Thanks to Adam Lallana, right? Was it Adam Lallana that scored that
last
goal
minute? Was it Slovenia or Slovakia or something?
One of those.
Yeah. For me, Conte wants to get the sack, doesn't want to see out his contract. Levy doesn't want to part money on the manager that will be gone in 5 months. And that's a very good point, right there, because I've been hearing a lot of Spurs managers say, Spurs fans say, oh, they should back the manager, like try and give him this one last push to prove his worth. I'm like, hang on. But this makes absolutely no business sense at all. If you don't have a manager committed for the long term, why are you going to financially back him? And he could still leave anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't work in football where there's relegation and promotion type things. In a closed off league or a league where you don't have the ups and downs jeopardy that you might have in the jeopardy that you might have. So not necessarily just American sports, but sort of teams in Scotland, for instance, that sort of are also rans. Maybe you could throw a little bit of money if you've got it at the season, but it doesn't work like that in the Premier League. It's too competitive. It is far too competitive. Fulham can turn up and turn you over, and they're looking to finish 10th this year. Wolves or Villa that are down near the bottom can turn you over with a couple of good performances. It doesn't work like that. And also, Conte has been backed, like Wilf's always mentioning. The money has been spent, so to say that Levy has backed him would be untrue. And we are where we are with them right now, aren't we? And like we keep talking about them like they're failing, but they're actually fourth, and maybe that's where they should be with the defence they've got, especially.
Exactly. Newcastle are our biggest rivals for the title. And indeed, it's looking like that at the moment. They were second for a lot of the weekend or a lot of the games. Happy New Year to yourself as well in advance, really. Hope you're keeping well, my brother. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas as well. New Year's approaching as well. Southampton finally getting relegated. Saints go marching to the Championship, looking like it is so. And the two youngest squads in the league, one at the top, one at the bottom. Once again, another great achievement there for
anyone that had 34 minutes and 6 seconds. You've hit bingo.
Gotta do it. Always have to bring that part in so people realise what he's doing. Sorry, but Southampton are a dead club for the Premier League. Never going up or down unless you support them. Nobody cares. Hey, it seems like a harsh truth, though. That is a reality. Talking about Darwin Núñez here. Empanada Carroll strikes again. Well, probably poorly. We'll talk about Darwin Núñez when we get to the preview here. And speaking of Darwin Núñez, we've got a Liverpool fan in Jamie Phillips in the place saying, long time no see. How you doing, fella? I'm doing good. Thank you for popping by, Jamie. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas as well with the family. And it's nice seeing you in here. And yeah, let us know your thoughts on Liverpool this season if you are still here, indeed. But big up yourself, Jamie. Hope you're keeping good. Slow process for us, but perfect game. Yeah, definitely. Nottingham Forest at home. Definitely a great game to come back to. Even Ed's team picked up 3 points in that one. Am I correct?
Yep, we did. We did, and I was there for that.
Yes, he was, indeed. And yeah, we also saw Jacob in the Match magazine.
Yep.
Was it for that game as well?
Yeah, the Match magazine, we did get Jacob in with his picture. We were there super early. He was bored out of his brain, so that wasted a couple of minutes, and we managed to get it into Match. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Guys, I want to know, like, especially the younger ones, maybe the older ones, what magazine did they have for the older, around your time, would I say, Ed? Did you have what?
Match and Shoot was ours, was mine.
Match and Shoot, yeah.
And if I was rich when I was a teenager, maybe when the grandparents had chucked me a fiver, I'd buy a 442, but that was only if I had the money.
Oh yeah, but that's a bit more older as well, isn't it?
Like,
you have to be a bit more mature, football maturity to understand 442 and the interviews that they have there. Chelsea getting their house in order. Maybe. It looks like it is, and the break's certainly done them well. And I agree with Luke here. The OCD in me likes a left-footed centre-back alongside a right-footed. Exactly. And you know what? Being a left-footed one, I hated playing with another left-footed one. It was so weird. It's so awkward. I always had to jump to the right. That was the worst part. Big up yourself, Casey, because he says, guess who's back? Back again. Casey's back. Tell a friend. Big OG right there in Casey.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well. Haven't seen you for a while, man. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas as well, Casey. Grealish couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo the other day. Rumour is Man City looking to get rid of him. Yeah, I saw that. Don't know how true that would be. But yeah, I did see that. Rafael would be great for them, indeed. But yes, people, we're going to get into the show right now. We are 36 minutes in. I thought we'd try and talk about that and probably make it a little bit shorter so we can get diving in right into the previews into here right now. So let's talk about the first game. It's the one on the thumbnail, and it is a 12:30 kickoff on Saturday, but there are games before that, but I thought we'd talk about this one first because I do think it's interesting between Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Manchester United. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for your boys up against the Red Devils.
Yep, so Wolves versus Man United. The last 5 meetings there is ticking along the bottom. It's not great reading for me, but I will still read it out anyway. So Wolves on the last one, but on the back of 3 losses and a draw. And if we look at the form of both teams, if we start with the mighty Wolverhampton Wanderers, we have got 3 wins and 2 losses in the last 5 games. That does include quite a comfortable game against Gillingham as one of the wins, but we can gloss over that and just look at it and think that's great. And for Man United, 4 out of the last 5, and on the back of 3 wins either side of the World Cup. And looking, I thought, quite impressive against Nottingham Forest, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of injury news, there's not anyone that Boubacar Traore, he could return for this game here, as well as Johnny as well, which will give them more an added boost into this one. Boubacar Traore, they're saying he's 50-50 whether he may return, and most likely see him on the bench for this one here. And Johnny, touch and go whether he's going to be available for this one on the bench. But there is a loss by the looks of it, and there'll be a fitness test before this game, and that was with the goal scorer of Wolves' first goal in Daniel Pedence right there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear Ed's thoughts on this here. In terms of returning, possibly, maybe a little bit too early for Diogo Dalot, but don't be surprised if you do see him feature in this game or even on the bench. And the same goes for Lisandro Martinez, who returned to training after his World Cup win and all the celebrations they had there in Argentina. So we may see Lisandro return at the back, but we'll have to wait and see for that indeed. Victor Lindelof, Scott McTominay, both out with illness. They could return for this one, of course. That's just depending on how they recover from now until then. And still no news on Jadon Sancho. But Ed, as we get into the preview of this one, how do you see this game going? And what's your prediction for this one here?
Well, I think for the Man United fans in this, I know that Steffi and Paxton, they're all in right now. What I think you will see is Wolves going back to the Nuno 3-5-2 at the back for this game in particular. I would imagine with the speed of Rashford and Martial, that will be an issue for our centre-backs if they were to match them 2v2. So I'm hoping that we move back to that and have a little bit more of control. Boubacar Traore is probably a player that no one outside of anyone that listens to me talk or follows Wolves will have heard of. But he is the difference maker in our midfield. And by that, I just mean he's sort of 6'2", wide, sort of languid style, gets stuck in. He's very different to the diminutive players that we started the game with against Everton. In Joe Hodge and João Moutinho, who I think are about 10 foot between them. So they're very, very short in stature, sort of along the Xavi Iniesta route of central midfielders, but obviously not quite to that quality. So I think we're going to go back to a slightly more defensive 3 at the back with the 5 in midfield and hopefully 2 up front. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that he goes for Costa or Jimenez with Guedes or someone else quick and nimble around them. But I fear that Man United, with the form they're in, Ten Hag being the manager that he is compared to where we sort of had a hit and run against them last year, I think at best we might be able to get a draw, with it being a 12:30, maybe that the new crowd will get behind them. Notoriously quite slow starters, however, the crowd in Wolverhampton. So I wouldn't bank on that too much. So my heart wants to say a 1-1, but I think my head is going to go with a 2-1 Man United win.
Interesting right there. And in my thoughts on this game, I think it's a big one for Manchester United in particular. And of course, it's big for Wolves because of Julian Lopetegui's first game at home. And I'm sure he will get the crowd going as much as he can do for a 12:30, which those 12:30 games don't always generate the best atmosphere. And it's probably a little bit better for the away side, as you know, compared to a night game in that sense. So, but given Wolves, and it's still early on in Julian Lopetegui's reign, it wasn't a great game, as Ed said, against Everton. But I do think it will be cagey and it will be tight. But I do think Manchester United are going to win by 2 goals in the end, especially when Martial's back up top. I think he's important for Man United and they're having a focal point up top. And whether he scores or not, I just think it's important for him to get the likes of Rashford going down on that left side. The best we've seen of Marcus Rashford is when Martial has been playing there with him. When we saw that under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and they both had like an impressive goal tally each. I think him staying fit is going to be massive. Until Mateus Cunha comes and he arrives, United, they're not perfect at the back. They're a lot more defensively stable with Erik ten Hag. And I do think when there is a one player missing out of them, they are a little bit more fragile, but it's still very early days. So that's nothing to be, ashamed about. You're not going to be having that fluid, right, one out, one in yet, like a Man City or, as I say, Arsenal. We've been very impressive at that this season because we were last season, if one player's missing, it all fell apart in certain aspects in certain parts of the team. But now with that, going through those times, those teething problems, I'd say we're a lot better. And I think Man United, if they can keep those players fit, get Martinez playing as Paxton says he wants to in the chat, I think Man United are going to win by 2-0. Let's see what you're saying in the chat in terms of predictions here. Pax has gone for a 2-1 Manchester United win. Steffi saying, "Come on, United," in the chat right there. What else we got here? We got 2-2 Wolves going to shot Man United. I'd definitely love that. And I'm sure Ed will, even though that wouldn't be a good one for the heart. Not at all. Right there. But yeah, Pax says he's not happy with you there, Wilf. But Wolves tough to beat. Yeah, they're not once Wolves, having watched them, they're not easy to break down initially, but once you break them down, you're not as worried about what's coming the other way. But yeah, they are tough to beat. They are regimented, and they will put a shift in for Julian Lopetegui. Would you agree with that there, bro?
Yeah, definitely. I think once you get that first punch on this Wolves team, especially the defence, the defence has come down a little bit. So yeah, it's more about how long can we sort of hold on and hit on the break. And I think Lopetegui, like I said, I think he will go to a slightly more defensive outlook. And Costa isn't going to score a goal this season if he stays with us the rest of the season. So we just are a little bit toothless up front at times, which is why I'm hoping and praying that Cunha sort of comes in and hits the ground running. I think this is a little bit of a free hit for Wolves in certain aspects, because I think the players, the squad, and the fans all know that there's probably one or two more players to come in as well. So this might be a little bit of a chance to take a swing at one of the big boys.
Exactly that right there. And you know what, just thinking this, Wolves are called Portugal Wolves and stuff, with the Portuguese players. But I don't think people realise how many former Atletico Madrid players you have as well. And you've had around the club for how long? Even Raul Jimenez, he was an Atletico Madrid player too. Johnny, Cunha, Costa. Who else am I missing?
It's all the Mendes link, because Mendes has a big link into Atletico Madrid as well. So it's a natural progression one way or the other.
Exactly that there. Steffi saying I'm more hopeful than her. Hey, maybe it's easier to say that as a neutral.
Yeah.
As much as a neutral I can be talking about Man United. But Luke saying Wolves won, Manchester United won there. Also gone with Will saying a draw. Big up yourself, Bobby K, who's coming in and just said a quick hello, about to jump on live himself, and go subscribe to 3 Spurs Boys as well, people. Great crack over there. And he says, hope everyone has had a fantastic will have a fantastic new year, and wish you all the very best. Hope you do as well, Bobby K, and big love to you. 2-1 Manchester United, says Mr. 200. They're tight, but Man United to edge it through. Need my 7 hours sleep driving on. Oh, Mr. 200, if you are popping away, I hope you have a good night's sleep. Remembering Arsenal top of the league. Speaking of Arsenal, did you like the segue? Do you like what I did? I told you I get a bit more experience at this now, guys. So we got Brighton and Hove Albion. Tough game this is going to be for Arsenal. But Ed, hit us with the records and stats. And I know the record isn't great against Brighton.
No, it's not overly bad. And also, I think, strangely, this will only be the 27th game ever between these two teams, which I thought was crazy when I was reading it, when I was doing all the stats for it earlier. But you can see there that Brighton have won the last 2, and they are unbeaten in the last 3, with 2 wins for Arsenal prior to that. And if we look at the individual records, if we start with Brighton's not a bad form at all, spanning both sides of the World Cup, with 4 wins and a loss, which is actually the same as Arsenal's. So obviously coming in with similar records, but of course one team is top of the league, and the other one is currently sitting very pretty for them in 7th.
Yeah, exactly. 2 good sides going at it in this game. In terms of the injury news for the home side, so it's interesting, and suspensions, because we're not expecting to see Moises Caicedo, because he is suspended with 5 yellow cards. And when we get to Liverpool as well, we'll talk about him for sure. Alexis McAllister, also not expected to return for this game. I don't think he's returned back to training yet. And who could return for this one is a nemesis of Arsenal's, for their former player, the one who Wilf and Ed both love, in Danny Welbeck, who is suffering with the muscular injuries, touch and go whether he's going to be fit. But I'll tell you an interesting stat that I heard today. Out of the last 5 games he's played against Arsenal, he scored 4 goals, Danny Welbeck. So, he's got a good record against us at the moment. So he may return. And in terms of that, there's no one else who's either going to be missing or returning for this game as well. And any updates there for Arsenal? Currently, we don't have any updates on in regards to anyone losing. He's picked up an injury, whether in training or against West Ham. But we do have some good news, as Takahiro Tomiyasu returned to training this week. And it's good to see him back after he suffered with a little bit of a hamstring strain during the World Cup. And it was something that he was managing there. and hopefully we can see him return at least on the bench to provide us some more, stability in that, and solidity for the defense if we do pick up any injuries. Of course, is very versatile. But yeah, in another injury that, well, I'm not expecting to return for this game, and I don't really expect him to start a game up until they Oxford away in the FA Cup, and that's a Emile Smith role. He may return. Not heard any news on him yet, not seen any pictures with him in training. But of course, no Reece Nelson and no Gabriel Jesus as well. So, guys, get your predictions in the chat and also get them in the comments at the end of this video. I forgot to mention that in the last preview. I got a bit rusty there. It does also help in terms of the algorithm pushing these out, and also helps in terms of Ed tracking and with your progressing, in terms of your predictions right there, so we can get them on the table in the Discord.
That is updated as of about 10 minutes before we started the stream. So
nice.
The latest table is up there as well, and if we've got time at the end, I'll drag it up onto the screen for those that aren't in the Discord as well.
Oh, appreciate you, bro. Being as you went first for the Wolves Man United game, I'll go first for this one. Brighton. Brighton, very tough, gonna be difficult. I'm a little bit more optimistic, not just because of Arsenal's form, but because Brighton, although they have performed well, and they've looked strong going forward, I don't think they're as defensively sound as they were with Graham Potter there under De Zerbi. Although he's a very good manager and suits the Brighton philosophy there. I think Arsenal, we will pose a threat to them, and we can get in behind and trouble their defense, and missing the likes of Caicedo and McAllister in midfield. I think that helps us a lot in that sense, and helps us gain possession and really assert our dominance in certain periods of the match. We will have to ride the wave. Arsenal defensively have been better away from home than we have been at home, in fact. And I think that's probably when you're at home, you play with a little bit more vulnerability. And I think that's how we've kind of adapted and really improved our away performances and managed the games. Eddie Nketiah, massive one. Massive game for him now, I think. Because, he was suffering. For me, the amount of criticism he was getting before at halftime, talking about his game, it was disgusting. And I couldn't believe it, because the guy was playing really well. His performance, even without the goal, the take of the goal away, I still would have said he had a very good game. Of course, and Eddie Nketiah, I'm sure Brighton would love to have him as their striker. So hopefully he can take, and exactly. And Ed, as I gave you a shout out in the Arsenal show, man. You've always rated him, even when he wasn't going for the best patches in his career. So they see real, recognise real. So Eddie Nketiah, big game here, and I think Arsenal will win this one. And I'm also going to go with the same result as Wolves versus Man United in a 2-0 win for Arsenal. What's your thoughts, bro?
It will be tight, but I thought I was so impressed with maybe it would be me that waxes lyrical about Arsenal because I didn't get on the Arsenal show. I was so impressed with the second half. That is, I think I put it in scored. That is what serial winners do, which is come back from a mistake. It was a penalty, but I thought credit to Bowen that he also tried to stay on his feet, just as a little aside. But to come out in that second half and sort of dominate the way they did, score the goals the way they did. Eddie Nketiah's goal, by the way, was a chef's kiss of a goal. What a wonderful goal that was. I think this is going to be a relatively comfortable result, if not performance. And I'm going to go with Arsenal to win 1-0. I think it's going to be a very professional, very tight, clever game plan from Arteta. And I see Arsenal winning, keeping top of the league, even without a win, they would as well with the points that you have at the minute. But I see this being a quite calculated 1-0 win. And I'm actually going to say Nketiah even gets that goal.
I think that will be huge if he gets that goal, because the little criticisms that I was hearing was that, Eddie scored the third goal, not the winner. If he gets this one and it turns out to be the winner, that will give him the world of good, do him the world of good in terms of confidence. And man, it was nice hearing that there, talking about Arsenal. And we do have a tricky run coming up, which after this, we got Newcastle, then we got Spurs, then we got Man United in the league as well. So it will be difficult, and it'll be good to get the ball rolling there. Let's see your predictions in the chat. We got Pax going with a 2-2 draw. just to spite Wilf. Big up yourself, Pax, right there. Top of the league. You must be finally talking about the mighty Arsenal. Indeed. 50-minute discussion from T Pending.
I think it's been quite quick, actually.
I did well there. Yeah, I mean, thankfully, we had the Arsenal show the other day to really wax lyrical about Arsenal's performance and whatnot. So, yeah, big up Wilf, man, joining me on there. And if you haven't seen it, if you're an Arsenal fan, recommend you go check it out. It's not too long as well this time. 2-0 Arsenal, says Wilf in the place. Oh, yeah. I do. I hope you're right, because that's the same one I've gone for. And Mr. 200 has said 3-0 to Arsenal, going to smash that jinx we have at the Amex and up against Brighton. So he's changed it.
We'll flip flop twice or three times, I think, on this. So he went 2-0, then he went 2, and then he went 2-0. So he's
gone back to it. Okay, fair enough. And Luke, he's gone for we never seem to play well against them. I'll go 2-1 Brighton, hoping I can jinx the jinx. Hopefully you're right. And yeah, this is a different Arsenal team, man, Luke. Like I do think we'll be able to play well. Whether we get the result or not, we'll wait and see. But yeah, I remember last season, 0-0, we got battered by them, and we deserve to lose the one at home also. So, yeah, we'll move on into the next game. And you know what? Let's talk about Liverpool, because Liverpool are at home to Leicester City. And this one's tomorrow, in fact, which is why we are doing the preview show here. So, Ed, talk to me about the record and stats between Liverpool and Leicester City.
Yeah, so for Liverpool and Leicester, if you look there at the ticker going along the bottom there, we are up and down here with these teams. So we've got a win for Liverpool 3 times out of the last 5, and Leicester have won 2 of the last 5. And if we look at the 2 teams, Liverpool's form couldn't be much better. 5 wins on the bounce. Leicester's was looking a lot prettier without that quite comfortable loss to Newcastle at home, which I think is something that maybe we've glossed over a little bit in general, the media, I think, in terms of the fact that Leicester were beaten 3-0 at home by Newcastle. So their last 5 games are 2 losses and 3 wins.
Interesting right there. And in terms of the Liverpool and Leicester injury news, of course, he's not going to be ready. He's still not going to be registered. And I don't think he's going to be registered in time for the Brentford game either. And that is Cody Gakpo I'm talking about, because the first is a bank holiday. And I don't think they can get the papers in time for him to be registered and whatnot. So Cody Gakpo, don't expect to see him in the Liverpool squad until they play Wolverhampton Wanderers. So, yeah, big one right there. But in terms of returnees for this game, we may see Ibrahima Konate, who is now back in training as he suffered once again. Ibrahima Konate is very injury prone, suffers a lot of muscular injuries, which is why Saliba's played, I think, more games in the Premier League whilst being here. I know he's been here longer, but playing for Arsenal only this season over Konate, who was here last season as well. And there is no more other returnees as Diaz and Arthur Melo, Diogo Jota and Curtis Jones, Bobby Firmino, James Milner will all remain out. So, yeah, they've got a long injury list there, but Liverpool probably have the biggest squad depth in the league in terms of players, I'd say, who can definitely play in the first team. For Leicester, though, which isn't good news, I watched Brendan Rodgers' interview talking about James Maddison. There is no return date with that knee injury he suffered before the World Cup. So for those of you that were saying, I can't believe James Maddison didn't come on, he's still injured. And the only reason he was even there because it's England, let's be real. So he's still suffering with that knee injury. He's gone to see a specialist. And yeah, I think it's in a different part of his knee, but the same knee that he suffered that injury in. So no return date for James Maddison, as it could be a while, as he's gone to see a specialist. When you see a specialist, it's never good in that sense there. And any returnees for this game? No returnees. Leicester also have a long injury list, and Dennis Pratt, who came in for Maddison, he's going to be out up until mid-January also. So yeah, and no returnees, and just 2 players out. Two more players adding to the list. But Ed, Liverpool, Leicester, for me, it feels like a foregone conclusion. But what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think Yeah, I genuinely didn't know Leicester had that many injury worries until you just read it out. But I had already written down my prediction of a 3-0 Liverpool win. And I feel a little bit more confident with that now because we've seen with Leicester all season that they are, the stock phrase of consistently inconsistent. And with those losses that they've got in the playing personnel, and obviously James Maddison massively their talisman this year. Maybe it might work in the long run if he does come back, that he'll at least be here and won't be sold in January with this injury. Maybe an injury for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. Maybe he comes back early February or something. That means that he misses the transfer window, and Leicester get the last 3-4 months of the season with him at least, which they might need because they could easily get dragged back into the problem if they go on another poor run like they did at the start. My only concern is that, as we talked about earlier with Liverpool, still not overly convinced about their midfield, which adds to their leaky defence. But I don't see Leicester scoring in this game, and obviously clip that if I'm massively wrong. But I am going to go with a 3-0. And Paxton, just so you know, because I know you will be worried, I have checked. Cody Gakpo has been given a squad number, so I'm happy. I'm happy.
What number is it?
He's been given number 18.
18. Okay, yeah,
makes sense. I think he likes an 8, doesn't he? So
I think so. Yeah,
makes me feel better knowing anyway, even if it makes no one else feel better.
And yeah, it's true. I understand, and yeah, makes sense. But with Cody Gakpo, I think he'll be better at Liverpool than he would have done at Man United, for example, because that's just in terms of the system that they play with their forwards being very wide and playing with those wide forwards, as Moss is saying in here, TT out, because of course Moss loves Cody Gakpo, being a Dutchman himself, and yeah, I'm not a massive fan of him in terms of his style of play. I don't think he would have really suited Arsenal because our wide players need to be very wide a lot of the time. And they do take up a lot. And they're more touchline wingers, which I think Nikola Mudryk, he'll be excellent in that sense. And yeah, Liverpool's wingers, they don't really maintain that much width because all their width comes from their fullbacks. So makes sense for Cody Gakpo to be there to be that potential Mane replacement. But I'm going to go with a 4-0 Liverpool win. I was itching between 4-1, 4-0, but I'm going to go for 4-0 in for that right there. I think Liverpool are going to run riot. And Darwin Núñez is going to shut the haters up because, by the way, I don't really like Darwin Núñez as a style of play. I think he's similar to Gakpo in that sense, where not technically great, not really good at the hold-up play with a back to goal and those things there. And he's not the most aesthetically pleasing footballer to watch when he's dribbling with the ball and whatnot. But as the guy, he's rapid, yeah, and his movement is excellent. He reminds me of a Cavani. He's much more like Cavani than he is Suarez in that sense. Just because he plays for Liverpool and he's Uruguayan doesn't mean he's Suarez. Cavani missed a bucket load of chances, and I'm sure all Man United fans in the chat right now could say this for me. But yeah, the way he gets so many chances, man, he's gonna eat. He's gonna eat in the Premier League soon. And yeah, 4-0. Anything to add on that in terms of Núñez?
No, I think you're right.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think
you spoke about him earlier.
When you talked about him being a chance magnet when we were in real life in person the other day, I think the perfect way to describe him.
Yeah, exactly that right there. Let's see what your comments are saying. What are you saying in the chat, my people? You've got Liverpool 4, Leicester 1. Pack saying that right there. Interesting. Hey, I was close to going that one, but I just agree with it. I don't think they're going to be able to put that ball in the back of the net. Liverpool 5, Leicester 0. Big one there from Mr. 200, who has gone to bed as well. Hope you have a good one. And like Mr. 200 should do, yes, can you guys drop yours in the chat at the end as well? Get them in the live stream so we can discuss about them. But when the stream's ended, at any point before the first game, chuck them in the comments as well. We'd much appreciated. And to those of you watching after, if you could do the same. Also, let's have a look in here. We got Liverpool 3, Liverpool winning by 3-0. Maddison loss is going to hurt Leicester. Indeed. Gakpo will come and haunt Tereak for a long time. Hey, if he's a success at Liverpool, doesn't mean he would have been a success at Manchester United. 3-1 Liverpool. That's what Moss has gone for. Liverpool 5, Leicester 1. Gakpo, who's that? We're going after Felix. Never heard of a Gakpo. We're also going after Felix, and hopefully your luck will run out just like as it did.
Hang on, isn't he Portuguese? Wolves will be in for him, don't worry.
Yeah, Wolves are probably knocking on the door. But you just got Cunha now, so yeah, you don't need him. Let's have a look. Yeah, definitely Gakpo suits Liverpool better. Agree with you there, Wilf. Let's have a look in here. Liverpool stacked on the offense. Surely they need. Yep, Caicedo. He's the one that they've been linked with. I think he's much more likely to see Moises Caicedo go to Liverpool, and him adding into that midfield will add that much needed energy and rejuvenation, I'd say, because they do look very open on the counter attack. Liverpool do, but yeah, he's that tough tackling, box to box midfielder, a little more Kante-esque than he is as a CDM, which will be definitely beneficial to Liverpool there. 3-0 Liverpool, says Casey. And then, yes, Wilf says, very good comparison between Darwin and Cavani. Loads of chances. They both needed loads, but their goal record says otherwise. Even though Moss ain't no for Felix. Yes, João Felix is a much better footballer than both of them. That is true. It's whether he scores as many goals as them. I don't really care because Jesus don't score many goals, but he's a very, very good footballer. And if he goes to Man United, I'd be worried as well because, yeah, that's how Ten Hag's playing, very similar to us as well. So, yes, into the next game we're going to talk about. And, yes, who should we go? Ed, I'll let you decide onto this one here, who we should talk about next.
Let's talk about the title pretenders in Man City, with obviously being second. And playing against Everton, this will have connotations at both ends of the league. So let's go for that.
Let's go for that one then. Manchester City at home to Everton. Ed, look at them. That's 5 meetings with the records and stats right there.
Yeah. So the last 5 meetings between these two teams have resulted in 5 wins for Manchester City. You can actually double that. So Man City have won 10 games on the bounce against Everton. So that, if that doesn't help with your predictions, and I don't know what will. And if we talk about Everton, talk about the away team first, just because they came up first on the list. Not looking great. That 4 out of the last 5 games have been losses, with just that 1 draw in there, but 5 losses in the league, I believe. And for Man City, I think it is 4 wins out of the last 5 with 1 loss there, which I think was the League Cup, I think, if I remember rightly. Was it, I think? I can't quite remember. So don't quote me on that, guys. But yeah, that is the last 5 games for both teams, and obviously huge in terms of what's ticking along the bottom there is that they haven't won, not just in 5, but Everton haven't beaten Manchester City in the last 10 games.
There you go, right there. And in terms of the injury news for Manchester City and Everton, of course, Julian Alvarez not expected to return after, once again, them celebrations, those antics with the Argentinian national side. But yeah, he's not expected to return, and neither is Ruben Diaz. And apart from that, Manchester City's injuries list is looking quite good. And I wonder if that's a correlation possibly between Arsenal and Man City, keeping their players fit, players being much more fit for a title race. I don't know. Maybe it's more to do with the characters. It'll be interesting. It's an interesting topic that we'll have to probably delve deeper on another time. But for Everton, no James Garner. No, actually, I'm about to say no, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin could return for this game.
It's just natural, isn't it, that you say no before Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because we've been doing this for about 14 months now. So
yeah, exactly that there. Exactly. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he could return, touch and go, whether he will in that case there. Connor Cody, he will return for this one, as he was ineligible to play against Wolves, as it was his parent club. And Yeremina, touch and go whether he's going to be fit. He's always injured as well. He's like a true rock star. Comes for one show and then completely dips. And he always puts a good performance in as well. He scored against Wolves, but yeah, whether touch and go whether he's going to be fit for this one here. But yes, and in terms of that's the injuries for both sides. Ed, it's your turn to go first, or is it mine? I think it's mine.
No, you went first on Liverpool.
Yes, okay then. So, Manchester City versus Everton. Definitely a foregone conclusion, given how both sides are performing right now. How many goals is Haaland going to score?
Now, he could score 2 and then get taken off, because you never can trust Pep. When I saw that Cancelo wasn't playing yesterday, my phone did get thrown into the sofa because I'd made the decision to keep Cancelo during the FPL hiatus that we had, and he was the one player I ummed and ahed over whether he would be in my team and maybe free up some money elsewhere. But this game, if Everton play anything like they did against Wolves, Man City will eat. They will just eat them up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This could be a massacre if they play the same way again. Genuinely were really, really bad against a team like Wolves, who don't create a tenth of the chances Man City will create. I'm going to stick my neck on the line. I'm going to say this will be a very, very comfortable 5-0 win.
You see, that's along the lines I was going for. I'm going for 6, right? That's the difference I'm going for. I'm going for a 6-0 Manchester City win, which is the same what Paxton's gone for there. I just think they're going to run riot. That Everton defense, their attack, all poor. And yeah, the midfield, a lot of people talk about this Amadou Onana. He's not for me either. Technically not there. He's a big physical player and he does look good in some occasions, but just doesn't have the technical ability for a top possession side in my eyes. So yeah, 6-0 Manchester City and Lampard sacking imminent. Yeah, it could be. It could occur after this game. We'll have to wait and see. But how many for Haaland? Are you saying, Ed?
2 and he gets taken off.
2 gets set in there. Hat trick. First half hat trick. All right. First half hat trick, which will be his 4th hat trick. For Manchester City already.
Obscene.
Have you seen the stat that Man City have scored more goals than Chelsea this season?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's like a £200 million squad with already hundreds of millions in that team. And there's Haaland just putting it. Yeah, crazy. Ridiculous. But yeah, let's see some of your predictions in here. Big up yourself, King, my brother Mike, also a co-host on the Arsenal show. So big up T and Ed. Missed you both. The content is elite. It's as elite as Haaland scoring goals. Big up yourself, my bro.
Hope high praise well.
Indeed. Thank you for the brilliant praise right there. Yeah, that's crazy. Hopefully when we do turn up, we put out Haaland-esque performances in efficiency. But I hope you're keeping well, my bro, and hope all is good. If we get Mudryk, I don't mind if we sign Felix. Do you have serious doubts about him? There was doubts around Erdegaard when he came in. There's doubts around Eddie when he's coming as well. So yeah, don't worry, man. João Felix, he'd find a home at Arsenal. Indeed, it's just all about the right money in that sense, and I guess it's the same for Mudryk as well. 7-0 Manchester City, says Luke. I thought he went one up me. He one up me there. Imagine Rooney coming back to manage Everton. Is he managing in MLS right now? Is it
DC. Right? I think Moss talks about it here.
Yeah. He could definitely. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He'd leave DC for Everton if he felt he was ready for it. He did reject them initially, didn't he? Before Lampard came in.
He did.
Yeah, interesting.
I think I'm not too sure about his tactics, but in terms of his man management and his ability to go, he didn't do a bad job at Derby, did he? From all, when all things were considered. But whether or not he's the step up to manage Everton and help them here, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to wait and see if that is going to be the pathway for Wayne Rooney. One-way traffic, Man City buy as many as they want. Exactly. They literally can, and they probably will. Man City winning by 4-1, says Wilf. Moss gone for a modest, I'd say, comfortable 2-0 Manchester City win. Haaland and Bernardo Silva with the goal. DCL, ACL, exactly that. It's a good one there. Only one that could save DCL these days would be. See, Moss, this is it. You need to hold this because you was the one saying Arsenal should go after Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I said he's always. I don't want that man. He wouldn't be fit. We've had enough injured strikers over the years, and Jay, I don't think he's the man in that sense, as his all-round ability is not quite there as well. Good aerially and good in the box, but overall not quite there. I think 2 City will be, I think 2 for Haaland, and then we'll be coasting and then taking him off. Agreeing with you there, Ed. Flip-flopping again, 5-1 Manchester City. He's gone for 5 right there. Let's have a look. And yes, that's all your predictions right there. And let's move on into the next game across this Premier League fixture weekend. Just pulling them up right now, and we'll talk about Spurs versus Aston Villa, which is on the Sunday game. Spurs, Conte up against Emery. Not great managers in terms of their football, but Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, it doesn't scream entertaining, does it, when you talk about those two managers? Last 5 meetings, again, ticking along the bottom there. 4 wins for Spurs in the last 5 games, with just that 1 win for Villa. And in fact, you can take that back to, in the last 16 meetings, Villa have won 2 and Spurs have won 14. There hasn't been a draw in this fixture since about 2010, I believe, from doing the stats earlier. So, although, as T's told us, if you're backing anything to do with Emery and maybe Conte, 2-2 is the way to go maybe with this one. And that's, of course, what Spurs did in their last game. Yep. So Spurs' form here, just quickly editing it, because I didn't put the draw in, was 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw in the last 5 games. And for Aston Villa, up and down, the season has been so far, with 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5 games.
Interesting one right there. In terms of the injury news for both sides, for Tottenham, we're not expected to see Richarlison until the end of the month as well. We may see a return for Jed Spence on the bench, most likely. And the same, we could see a return for Christian Romero for this game. I'm sure Conte will be wanting him as soon as possible for this one, and as well as Rodrigo Bentancur, who I thought was excellent in the World Cup for Uruguay. In those 3 games that they did play. Outshone Valverde, who was, very highly rated, the Real Madrid man, but I thought Bentancur was excellent. And I think he's had a very good season so far, Rodrigo Bentancur, and he's found a home at Spurs. But, and that's it in terms of them, and no Lucas Moura for them either. So 2 Brazilians missing right there for Spurs. For Aston Villa, Emi Martinez may return, but if the rumours are true about Unai Emery not liking him as his personality and does want to get rid of him to try and generate some cash, we'll surely see this weekend if it is true there. But Jacob Ramsey, he's not going to be fit. He's not going to return for this one either. And as well as, of course, Diego Carlos. But Ed, is it my turn to go first now?
Yeah,
or did I go first in the last one? I can't
Who
even
knows?
remember.
Who knows?
Yeah.
No, I went first on Man City. I said 5-0 first, didn't I? So yeah, it's
oh yeah, no, I went 6. Yeah. So okay,
you love speaking about Spurs, so
exactly. Fasten your seatbelts, people, as we speak about Spurs. But yeah, in this one, I think I say this. I don't think they're the most entertaining side, but I think there will be goals in this one because both sides aren't very solid at the back at the moment. Spurs seem to be slow starters. Villa, apart from when they played Manchester United, they haven't really impressed me too much. Of course, they've probably done a little bit better away from home as they did against Brighton, winning there. So I'm going to go, I'm edging a 2-2, but as you said, there's no draws. So I'm going to edge it to Spurs. I'm going to say a 3-2 Spurs win. 5 goals in this one. And Spurs to concede 2 again. Start very slow, but Kane, he'll take it.
Yeah.
What about you, bro? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've written my prediction down, and I actually went for 4-2. Very similar to what you were talking about. I don't see either team being able to keep a clean sheet in as we talked about Spurs earlier, I just think that attacking prowess that they have with Kane, Kulusevski, Son, if he's back more and more into full fitness, and hopefully for his sake at least that he'll be hitting a little bit more of his form. We're due a Son purple patch, whether that's for 20 minutes or for five games. They come and go, don't they? He's a very streaky player. So I don't rate the Villa defence. As we talked about in the stats, there's been no draws in this game since like 2010. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Spurs win, Spurs at home. I'm going to go for goals like you did, but I've gone for one more, and I've gone for a 4-2. I think there's a few draws actually in the chat.
Oh, is there? Okay, interesting, guys. You know what? You're going against the tide, but sometimes that proves to be right in the end. Let's see what you're saying. We got Pax, the first draw in here, saying Spurs 1, Aston Villa 1 right there. We got Spurs. We've got another 1-1 here. Kane and Watkins to draw. We got another draw. We've got 2-2 goals in this one again from Wilf in the place. See Moss and Wilf. They love the flip flops. Get the sandals out. So yeah, Moss did have a 2-2, but then he went down to a 1-1 right there. Emery not liking Martinez's personality. Well, I'm truly shocked. Interesting there. Yeah, maybe he's not everyone's cup of tea. And
no, he's a funny onion, isn't he? He's a funny guy.
I don't mind him personally.
No,
yeah.
No, I'm okay with it. He's just won the World Cup. Like, I don't know what I'd do if I just won the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? I think there are just times when it's a bit of an out of body experience, and he's a bit of an odd bod, but most keepers are, for goodness sake. Like,
that's a very good point. Most keepers.
I don't think he's any different to most keepers. Like Neville Southall just used to eat beans out of a can whenever Everton went away in Europe in the 80s and early 90s. It's just that's true. They're all just strange people. And I guess to be a goalkeeper and have a ball whacked at you at 60 miles an hour and go down at people's shins and knees on a daily basis, you probably do have to have a little bit of a screw loose.
It's true. It's a very good point right there. And if when Ramsdale's lifting the Premier League, I'm sure you'll see a little bit of weird.
Yeah, he's a weirdo as well.
He's weird. I love him, but he's weird. Someone who also loves the cameras and the camera saves, just like Emi Martinez. Spurs 3, Aston Villa 1. Villa will go up by 1 goal, and that's continuing the theme in every Spurs game at the moment. But Spuds will get the rub of the green, like they always do. England choker Kane will score a couple of pens later on as well. Let's have a look. Martinez living rent-free in people's heads. I do agree. I don't have a problem with it. It's weird, the celebrations he did, but as Ed said there, he's a goalkeeper. And exactly, Jens Lehmann totally sane too. It was a very
absolute mentalist, wasn't he? Good point, Moss.
Great point, Moss. It's true. And we'll move on now into the next game, and also the one that follows this one in Nottingham Forest at home to Chelsea here. So Ed, hit us with the records and stats, which I'm seeing appear at the bottom of our screen right now with this one here.
Yeah, I'd take these, as I always say, with Forest with a bit of a pinch of salt. These are all cup losses that have happened in the since 2000. So there's nothing really there for you to worry about in terms of form between the two clubs. They've only ever played each other in cups in the last sort of 20 odd years or so. Forest form, obviously a relatively convincing loss to Man United with Wayne Hennessy in goal, but that did come on the back of 2 wins prior to, one was in the league and one was in the League Cup, and with a draw and a loss before the World Cup. And for Man United, Paxton and Steffi, if you're still around, 4 wins and 1 loss in the last 5 games, and a very convincing win. But we're not doing Man United, are we?
I was just thinking that then. I was thinking,
we're not doing Man United. We're doing Chelsea, aren't we? I clicked on the wrong. Chelsea stemmed the tide of 3 losses with that relatively convincing win against Bournemouth. Man United are in my head as well, so Lies is in there. Man United are already there waiting for us on Saturday.
There you go, indeed. He's got Man United on the brain. He's looking to take 3 points, indeed. Let's have a look. So, in terms of injury news for Nottingham Forest, we may see Morgan Gibbs-White as he's going to have a late fitness test, whether he's going to be fit enough for this game. we will have to wait and see here. He's a big player for Nottingham Forest. He didn't play the other night, did he?
No.
So yeah,
no,
yeah,
he's their catalyst for most of their attacks, to be honest.
Yeah, he is. I think he's been impressive, and it's a big money, big outlay they put on him as well. And I think, to be honest, for the best he can do in not a great side, I think he's kind of paying them back a little bit. And if they stay up, I'm sure he will pay them back fully in that one there. Dean Henderson, he will return for this one. Jesse Lingard walked off with a thigh injury, but should return for this one. He will also have a late fitness test. And there's no other returnees as the likes of Biancone, Omar Richards, Cheku Kiate, and Musa Niakate are also out as well. About all of those players were signed this season too, for Nottingham Forest. And then for Chelsea, their injury list, not looking great, of course. No Kante, no Reece James, who is going to have an assessment on his knee again. Another knee injury around that area. And yeah, so they're saying at the moment that it's definitely going to be a month, but they're going to see what it's going to be, if it is going to be any further extent to that injury there. Wesley Fofana, on the other hand, he's not going to return for this one, but his knee injury isn't as serious and could return in the following week. Ben Chilwell, it's going to be too short, I reckon, for this game, but he's also expected to return in January, and the same goes for Loftus-Cheek as well. However, Mateo Kovacic and Hakim Ziyech could return after their late international return from the World Cup, so we may see him in this one here as well. And of course, no Armando Broja, who's out for the rest of the season. But Ed, is it my turn to go first, or is it yours?
No, I think it's me now, isn't it?
Yours. Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea.
Not Man United, as I thought. Selfishly, I want Chelsea to just do a number on Forest and sort of condemn Forest to the bottom of the league and for them to stay there as long as possible. I think we've said it all season, and Forest are where they are. I always expect the City ground to be worth a couple extra points with the fact that it's their first time in the league for so long. But as we talked about with Spurs earlier, how many times can you scratch your head and expect, something different when it hasn't happened? Chelsea, I thought, did a number on Bournemouth in midweek, and I see them doing a very similar job against a team that I would say are in a similar predicament. I see Bournemouth being dragged into this relegation battle a little bit more now. I think they flattered to deceive a little bit prior to this. I'm going to go with Chelsea. I'm going to go with Chelsea to concede, though, but to win 2-1. I just see Chelsea having just a little bit too much. And I think Potter is a training ground manager, and he's had 6 weeks on the training ground with an awful lot of that team. And I can see the benefit of that being in Chelsea's favour in this game. And Forest, I thought Man United didn't really get out of second gear and looked very comfortable. The only difference is, of course, is they'll have their number one goalkeeper back in. But I still don't see that being too much of a change in this one. And I'm going to go with Chelsea to win 2-1, which is maybe a little bit of a conservative guess.
Oh, I'm thinking 2-0. I'm thinking they will probably build upon that, try and keep a clean sheet. Yeah, I don't think Reece James will be a massive loss for Chelsea here, but they're going to try and want to build up some momentum. As yes, it is looking like for a while, Moss, but of course, well, with injuries, especially around that knee area, does take up to 48 hours to get a clear distinction what it is because of because of inflammation, the swelling around it. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm sure more news will be out on that. But yeah, they're saying right now, as King said here, that Reece is out until Feb at the least. So yeah, it is sad for Reece James, as Paxton's saying here. Sad for Reece James, though. Definitely could be challenging the likes of Trent if he can stay fit. And do you know what I would also say with the likes of Reece James? It's so important for a player with his body type and an athlete with his body type to be playing football, because I do think it will take the likes of Reece James, but who's a little bit more rounded, I'd say, still stockier to keep playing, to get that rhythm so they can be at that top level. It's the same for Luke Shaw as well, for you guys at Man United. When he's been out injured, you can tell it takes a lot longer for them to shake off that little bit of rust, I'd say. So yeah, it's important for Reece James to keep playing if he's going to get to that top level, as we certainly has the potential to do so. So yeah, 2-0 Chelsea. And the final team, and you know what? disrespected them a little bit here. It's not the final game, but the final team in the Big Seven, I'd say, and that is Newcastle United up against Leeds United at home. Newcastle on form. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one.
Yeah, I'll make sure I don't do Man United this time. So Newcastle versus Leeds. It's not great reading for Newcastle, but obviously some of those years would have been the Steve Bruce years that you can see there ticking along the bottom with just a 1 win, 2 wins for Leeds and 2 draws in the last 5 games, all in the Premier League. And if we look at their form individually, Newcastle's only better, but then battered by Liverpool, I think, who've got one more win than them in a row. Newcastle have won their last 5 games in all competitions, and for Leeds, who of course lost just last night, City, they're on the back of 3 losses in a row with 2 wins prior to that. So form definitely in Newcastle's favour.
There you go, right there. And in terms of the injury news for Newcastle, John Joe Shelby, who is going to be out for another 6 to 8 weeks, as confirmed by Eddie Howe. And I saw something mad, like if he plays like 3 more games or something like that, something little, then he would trigger a contract extension.
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something small, a minute amount of games, and that's another year onto his contract. But they are looking for a midfielder. They've been linked with Jorginho, actually, as you know, Chelsea have been heavily linked with Enzo Fernandez, putting in £100+ million bid for him. How would Chelsea finding this money? I don't know.
The way they always have,
yeah,
that's the thing. And it was the same even before Abramovich. They always found money down the back of some sofa.
Yeah, it's so true. Very, very true right there. That's how they got the likes of Hullet and Desai and stuff before Abramovich. Good point. So we've also got no Alexander Isak in for this game. However, their main man, Callum Wilson, he may return after he suffered with illness, because he did play against Bournemouth and then didn't see him on the weekend. I thought it was a bit weird. But he was suffering with illness, so he could return for this one here as well. For Leeds, their injury list is lightening a little bit, but they still won't have Luis Sinisterra for them. But they may have Patrick Bamford. He may return, so we'll have to wait and see. He wasn't featured, or wasn't involved at all in last night's game. But they will have Tyler Adams return for this one here as well. I'm sure that will be a much needed boost for them if they are to get anything away to arguably, definitely one of the most informed teams in the league at the moment. I'll go first in terms of my prediction. Yep. I think it's a foregone conclusion. I can see a lot of 3s in the chat for Newcastle, and I'm going to go minimum 3. I'm going to bump that up to 4. I'm going to say 4-0 Newcastle. And it's mainly because of Leeds' defence. Leeds leaking a lot of chances. That's not going to improve anytime soon. And this is the hardest game, I'd say, right now, away to Newcastle. It's arguably the hardest game. And Arsenal, of course, as well, as we're the only team with a 100% record at home. But yeah, definitely up there. And they're not going to be wanting to play this one at all. But I think Newcastle 4-0. What about you, bro?
Yeah, I've gone for, again, same as you, similar foregone conclusion. I went for 3-0 in this game, and I think Leeds are feast or famine, aren't they, with their goals? And sometimes that feast comes in one game, and I just don't see it happening in this game. I think Newcastle are going about their business so professionally, so very well. I believe Sven Botman's not lost, has he, in any game he's played, I think, weirdly this year, and no one's really talking about him. And he's another one that maybe, if you do play FPL, is worth picking up. I think he's relatively cheap even now. So if you don't mind having a centre-back instead of a full-back or wing-back, maybe someone to pick up. Yeah, Leeds to lose 3-0. I think the Newcastle train just keeps trucking on.
There you go, right there. And then for the final games, we're gonna group these as we do in the Tereak talks, where we just make Ed work that little bit harder as he runs through the stats. And guys, get your predictions in as just as we do it. Let me just read through some of your predictions here. Newcastle 3-2 up against Leeds. We got Luke's Forest one saying 3-1 against 3-1 Chelsea, 3-1 Newcastle against the Leeds, another 3-1 Newcastle. And Moss has 2-1 Newcastle. Hopefully, Callum Wilson is a goal. Wilson and Almiron for the goals for Newcastle, and Rodrigo with the goal for Leeds. So yeah, let's go into West Ham versus Brentford. Then we'll do Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace, and then finally Fulham versus Southampton. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, so West Ham, Brentford, the meetings down there do stretch back to prior to Premier League games, so maybe don't read too much into them, but it doesn't read well for West Ham, losing 3 of the last 5 games with 1 win for them and a draw. West Ham's form also, we're yet to have a Hammers fan in the TTF, so yeah, their form's not great, so you don't need to look away because there's probably none of you here. And for Brentford, whether or not Ivan Toney will be able to play, he's still available, I believe. But Brentford, a lot of draws in their last 5 games, 3 draws, 1 win and 1 loss. And if we move on to the next one, if I can find it, we'll do Fulham Southampton because it's the first one I found. Fulham versus Southampton, last 5 meetings there. Fulham have actually lost 3 of the last 5 with just winning the 1 game and 1 draw. So if anything, Southampton's form against Fulham is favourable to them, but their form overall, not necessarily that great, very up and down, but one of those wins was in the League Cup against much lesser opposition. So maybe read into that what you will. And Fulham arrested a little bit of a slump with that win against Crystal Palace, against the 9-man Crystal Palace at the weekend. And speaking of Crystal Palace, we'll finish off with their last game. Do them last. Apologies for any of the eagle-eyed fans that will join there. But you are playing Bournemouth, so forgive us for that. Last 5 games, Palace have won 3 of them. Bournemouth have won 2 of them. And in terms of individual form for both teams, the Dons of South London have lost 3 on the bounce with 2 wins prior to that. And for Bournemouth, they are on the back of 2 losses themselves with 2 wins and a loss in the last 5 games. So guys, just for you in the comments, we're going to look at Fulham Southampton, we're going to look at Bournemouth Palace, and we're looking at West Ham Brentford now. So get your comments in as we
get them predictions in, as I just run through the team news ever so quickly for you people, as we got in terms for West Ham, knee injury for Kurt Zouma, so he's not going to be fit. And we may see the return of Gianluca Scamacca and Naif Ajerd as well. So that'll be 2 big pluses for them, as Naif Ajerd, excellent in the World Cup and has looked very good for West Ham in the short time, game time he's had there. And Gianluca Scamacca trying to add a bit of goals to a West Ham team that's certainly lacking in that area there. For Brentford, however, let's have a look for them. So Christopher Ajer not going to be back for this one here, neither for Shandon Baptiste or Aaron Hickey and Frank Onyeka, but Thomas Strakosha may be back on the bench for the goalkeeper right there for Brentford. So in terms of the next one, so we have Fulham versus Southampton. Manor Solomon, too early for him to come back after his knee injury. We may see him return next week. However, Livan Kazawa, forgot he was there actually, and he could return for this one as well in this game here. So for Southampton, we have Romeo Lavia. He may return for this game here. We'll wait and see. He'll be a big plus for them into their midfield. He started really well for Southampton in his short spell there as well. And that's it, yeah, in terms of then the likes of Juan Larios, Theo Walcott and Alex McCarthy yet to have a return date for the Saints. And then finally, for Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace, for AFC Bournemouth, who have had a very good season for their standards so far with a new takeover with Michael B. Jordan there. We have no return. Actually, yes, we have one returnee, and that could be Marcus Tavernier for this game here. Be interesting to see if he's fit and available, because he has been a good big plus for them this season, signing from G. Staffy's Borough themselves over there. But the likes of Neto, their number 1 goalkeeper, he's yet to return for this one, as well as Stanislas, Fredericks, and David Brooks, who could return next week, and that'll be a big plus for David Brooks right there after his battle with cancer which he's thankfully successfully overcome right now. And then finally, for Crystal Palace, the suspension list adds Tyreek Mitchell and James Tompkins after getting sent off because Tyreek Mitchell's was a straight red. Currently, unless they appeal it and win the appeal, that is a 3-game ban for him. So Tyreek Mitchell out until the 15th of January. Then we've got James Tompkins, who, because it's the 2 yellow cards, will only miss the 1 game right there. But Mark Gay returns from his suspension of the 5 yellow cards there. And yeah, in terms of James McArthur, Nathan Ferguson, and Sam Johnson, no return date for those either. So, guys, I know there was a lot right there. Big up yourself, Rich, in the place, just talking about Palace. Let us know your predictions as myself and Ed are about to chuck ours in right now for you guys in the video. So let's go with West Ham Brentford first. What are you saying, bro, for this one?
This, for me, has draw written all over it. And I think I'm going to go for that. I'm actually going to go boring on this one. I'm going to go 0-0. I kept saying in the last preview show, it's after the World Cup. We're not going to see that many goals. It's going to be a bit, and I was completely wrong. Every game had at least 2 goals in it, I think. So one of them's going to arrest the slide. So I think I'm going to go with this being 0-0.
I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I do think there is going to be a goal, and I'm going to back West Ham here. I think they're going to do it. They're going to edge it 1-0. They're going to need that goal as well. For AFC Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace, my prediction here. I'm sorry, Rich. All right, I really am. I think Bournemouth, they are on the up at the moment, and Palace with those suspensions, as I said at the start, that squad depth for Palace is really starting to tell at the moment. And they just don't have enough, I don't think, away at Bournemouth in terms of their squad depth. They do have the firepower, of course, with Zaha and Eze and Elise, but it's making sure, especially Eze and Elise, that they're performing consistently now at a high level. Zaha, he'll do it. He'll turn up, I'm sure, but he needs a supporter around him. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Bournemouth win. What about you, bro?
I'm going with the Palace sneaky 1-0 victory away from home. I see this being a Zaha classic of scoring a goal, and then it's all about Wilf. It's all about holding on to those 3 points. I see Palace winning in this game. And for some reason, I have a sneaky feeling that Bournemouth are going to get dragged in more and more every week into this relegation battle. I just see Palace winning this. Call me crazy, because I think you might be right about their squad depth. And Gahey being back is a big one. He'll be useful against players like Kiefer Moore and Dominic Solanke in the air. So, yeah, I'm just going to go with a sneaky 1-0 Wilf masterclass.
Right there for Palace. Yep. Hey, we're good for Palace. I want to get them back up and going, man, and get some good players in for January, because they are probably one of the interesting teams to watch in the league as well, with the attacking flair that they do have. Finally, Fulham versus Southampton, another promoted team who's been doing excellent this season, been doing absolute bits up against the team that's bottom of the league. Ed, what are you going for here?
I think I'm going to go for a comfortable 3-1 Fulham win.
Yeah, 3-1 Fulham.
Hopefully some goals from Mitra.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it could definitely. And I'm sure a lot of people who have him in their fantasy teams will definitely want that to happen. However, I see something weird happening here. Because, Southampton, they love a weird result. The fact that we've only not won 2 games this season, and one of them was to Southampton, says it all for me. And I think Southampton are going to nick a 1-1 draw. One of them games where Che Adams just decides to be prime Romario and whatnot, because he can do that. Che Adams
one every 20 games he's borderline unplayable, isn't he? So
yeah. Che Adams is one of those weird Premier League strikers that could do it on one game, as you said, in 20, and he looks tremendous. And you're like, how is this guy at Southampton? Then you realise 20 games later he hasn't scored. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw right there. And guys, that wraps up the preview show. Under 2 hours this time, which is good. We mixed it up a little bit. If you are just joining, we do recommend, and thank you for joining as well. And if you do watch at the start, we had like a review of the Boxing Day, well, not just Boxing Day, the Christmas period, after post-Christmas period games right there. So thank you to you all for sticking with us as well. And make sure you get your predictions in the comment section afterwards. And big up to my brother, Ed, for co-hosting as well. Ed Min He's my wonderful co-host for these preview shows. He puts through all the work, getting the studio ready, getting all the little banners and stuff that you see right there, and doing all the research for these games, and massive appreciation. So guys, make sure you smash that like button, not just for me, but for our brother Edmin in the place as well. Thanks for joining, Ed. Any final words?
Yeah, I think I was going to try and share the predictions table so people know what's going on. So hopefully you can see that, I think, if I add it to the stream. It is my spreadsheet. So, yeah, it's a little bit rough and a little bit ready, but it is in the Discord. If you're not in it, get in it. But that's where we are right now. So Rich has just come in time to not just hear us talk about Palace, but also to know that he's in third place at the minute, with Moss and T in fourth, Paxson in fifth, and King is in sixth. And yeah, I'll mention it that I am top at the moment. But yeah, get it in. Get it in the comments afterwards. Get it in the predictions tab in the Discord, and yeah, I think there'll be some prizes towards at the end of the season with where we all are and that kind of stuff. And whoever finishes bottom out of me and T will do some kind of stupid forfeit of some kind. So yeah, I'm hoping I don't bottle it this year. But 8 points is nothing in this game. So yeah, do let us know your predictions in the comments afterwards, because it is always good for the numbers. And obviously T is only 6 away from the 600 that we want to try and get to in the next few days. So as I said in the Discord the other day, if you've got a spouse, a dad, a mom, an auntie, an uncle, a granddad, grab their phone, just go on it and go to YouTube and like and subscribe it, because I think once T gets to 1,000, this channel will fly. So yeah, thanks for all your support, and thanks for, we've had like at least 10 people in the whole way through for the best part of 2 and a bit hours. So it's it doesn't go underappreciated. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in and staying in for the duration as well, or whether you've just popped in for 5 minutes or so. It really is appreciated all the way. And thank you for your support, guys. Don't forget, leave them in the comment section below. We are going to love and leave you. We'll be back. Stay tuned, people, and to see if we are able to do any watch-alongs, of course, because it's going to be a busy weekend, New Year's weekend. But yeah, I do hope to bring back some more watch-alongs for it within the new year. It's just a very busy period at the moment. And yeah, so guys, love to you all and peace. Hope you have a good one. And of course, rest in peace to the legend Pele himself.